Peace, family. It's your boy Gerald. It's Tuesday, the 28th of January, 2020. How is everybody doing? So, as I'm about to start my day, and as you already know, lately I've been putting out videos speaking on the same narrative. And, you know, I just wanted to put this out, be short and sweet, because I think that once it becomes clear, it'll force you to make a choice. And you're thinking, well, what choice are you referring? That's too vague. What I'm talking about is no matter where you are in your life, the one thing we can agree upon when it comes to uh, future development, your destiny, the road that you travel, and the things that make up the environment of that said experience, there must be a commitment. And depending on that commitment, that will be the passion that will motivate you to continue on. That is why many times that we can agree that everybody's been given natural gifts and talents from the first moment that you took your your first breath. That's why some people have uh, have a natural inertia on doing things while others don't. And I was thinking about it. You know, for a long time I've always echoed about this is your year. This is what's going to reveal itself. This is what's required. But when you strip all that away and you are intimate with yourself, what stands before you is the choice, not the narrative, not the influence. Of course, there'll be motivating factors that you may say that it's emotional triggers or impulse, depending on where you are emotionally. But at the end of the day, you have to make a conscious decision on what's important to you. And when you make that decision to identify what is important to you, that will also be the measurement of the investment of that said focus. You've heard me say many times when it comes to your life, how bad do you want it? Because at the end of the day, we can agree that no man knoweth the time or moment that they'll take their last breath. But it will be the story that is left behind that for everyone else, well, that's where it be measured. That's why it's so important while we're here on this earthly realm. You are supposed to live every moment to your fullest. And I'm saying that from a grounded perspective because I know it's real easy to romanticize it. I got that because reality, there's somebody that's in a struggle that might not be in the same paradigm as you. There might be somebody that every day they proverbially have to put emotional mask on just to have the courage to make it through their day, just to take it off and hang it up because that's all they have to go by. And I think these last 6 to 8 months, I've been really speaking about your happiness and the importance of your smile. Not only because the fact that that's something that we don't talk about and we should as a community, but it is also what should define who you are as an individual. The closer you are to yourself, the more stronger you will be to stand on your character. It is what makes up every motivating opportunity that is given to you. So I'm going to ask you again because I understand the first 5 seconds of a person's focus is the most impactful. So take what you need, and if it doesn't apply, I hope that when you see it play out, you understand what I was trying to convey. But far too many times, family, we hold our dreams hostage. We allow ourselves to take a back seat to the things that we truly need based on the reality of what's going on in our day to day. And it made me think there are constant examples of people on this planet waving the checkered flag of success, right? You see it all the time, no matter where what the descriptive is, no matter what the economic uh, result comes from it, the yield, the harvest. But why? Why is it that we're not putting enough emphasis to have the dialogue of, I mean, you hear people talk about mentorship, and mentorship is very important because the only thing that a mentor does is give you access to a perspective that you have yet to discover, but possibly you already possess. But it's measured also by free will, too. So I would be remiss to go back and not echo this again. How bad do you want it? You can't go through life thinking that your life is going to play out like it's scripted from whatever media illustrations out there. For a long time, that destroyed and distracted countless people in regards to what love looked like. What I'm getting at is the machine of propaganda. Because you look at the indirect narratives of what's being described and it's telling you not to believe in yourself, just to have a little hope, not to build your faith. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. Sorry. I really believe, family, when it comes to anything that you have desire, it will automatically demand a focus, and that focus will be your passion. You know, they say passion is something that you would be willing to do for free because where that passion is, the love is not far behind. But what about the investment? What about the works done? You know, I've always said you don't need anybody's permission to change because that's something that's intimate. That is something that is done behind the veil. But it is measured when you step outside because that will instantly be felt. And that's where inspiration comes because we learn in various ways. We learn by sight sometimes, we learn by what we hear, we learn by using both or having to write it down through repetition. But I'm here to tell you, fam, just from a perspective of this one point. If you want your life to be as you feel it to be inside, you got to claim you. You've got to claim yourself. Because until you decide to claim you, guess what? Everything that you have experienced unjustly would have been in vain. Look, there are countless people that will easily give a comment because it's convenient, because they don't want to do the work themselves. That is why you always hear the cliche of misery loves company. But what is a life unclaimed? What is a natural gift and talent not not shown to the world as it rightfully should? And there are countless examples of this. You see this. You see it splashed all over the media in a town near you, in a city near you. You've heard of stories of people that you knew that the moment that they made a commitment to themselves, doors would be open as long as they kept moving forward. And then proverbially, life is the justification on why they did or why they lost the ability to persevere. Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter what you've gone through, how many times you've been knocked down, how many times you have felt pain. You got to still keep living. And some may interpret this as I'm being selfish. No, I'm being selfless because it's your story. It's yours. You don't live, you don't let your life, you don't, I'm being passionate right now. You're seeing passion. You don't let 1 second be robbed from you because you're doing it for validation of others. You don't do that because your actions will speak for themselves. Excuse me. Your actions are going to be what the narrative of your life stands for. Not who you know, not what you obtained. It's them seeds that were planted. And yes, when you truly plant them seeds because it comes from your heart, it's made of love, it's made of commitment. They will grow in the intended time. But be mindful of the soil that you planted in. I'll give you an example. And you guys have probably seen it and heard it before. We'll take a relationship. Let's use a scenario of a relationship. And then we'll say there's a woman. She goes through life with the desire, as most women do, to one day be a mother. She takes the knowledge and the experiences of her development and she pulls the positives from those experiences, from those experiences that may have been challenging. And she makes the conscious decision that no matter the example, she was going to personify it. And then in the intended time and moment, her companion is revealed. And no matter what, they never have children. No matter the economic status and accolades, the bond does not grow. It's a stalemate, and time marches on to the point she has an inkling inside her to question why is it she's unable to have the ultimate gift to be called mother. Then a decision is made, the relationship is severed, and after time of reflection, another person comes along. And at that moment, she has a child. Now, there's a caveat to that. See, through all that period of time, she thought she was being punished. She went, she looked at her emotional state, she looked at her physical being, she looked at her environment, and as most women do, she dotted her I's and crossed her T's. And inside her spirit, she longed to be a mother, but it was not given. She had to go through that experience. And the things that may have been prideful, the things that had bias connected to it, the things that had impulse, she finally got to that place of having a heart to heart with herself. And the paradigm shifted. And the things that were deemed a want were no longer a need. She started to wonder about her own mortality. She looked around her environment and she saw her girlfriends all embracing motherhood. But then she started to notice every one of them had different challenges going on, different struggles, different strengths. And being as most, she learned from the examples and tried to do the opposite. So she too would not have to wear or measure, so she didn't have to embrace the same experience. But it wasn't until looking back at her life after holding her newborn child, she was most grateful not only for the birth, because the child was healthy, but she was more elated for what was being shown all along because she realized that she had to go through those things to get to where she was. And the one thing that was not she did not waver on was that passion to be a mom. So she realized that she wasn't being punished, she was being protected and she was being prepared for the greatest undertaking that she would ever come to know. So let's flip it on an economic sense. Some of maybe what's going on is you're in that ingestive stage and you want to birth whatever you hold passionate about yourself. But there's a process that you got to respect. There's a timeline that is not under your control. But what is being required is you stay committed to the process. I could do one better. Think about that time that you were trying to get somewhere and unbeknownst you, there was traffic, there was gridlock, and you're looking at your watch, thinking about your objective, weighing if you should try to find an exit to deviate from the direction that you need to go. But you stayed committed. You didn't deviate from it. You stayed patient. You didn't let the distractors out your window from other people reacting to impact on you. And in the intended time, the things that were blocks were removed and you got to where you needed to be because you stayed committed to the process. Now, there are going to be plenty of things that you intend to do, but you may not see the end goal in your mind. You have a pre notion, but a lot of times the narratives that occur in the process, we're not going to be privy to until it's right in front of us because it's requiring us to make a decision. How are we going to react? How are we going to respond? How are we going to adjust? But one thing I'm going to tell you this right now, fam. That is the proverbial spiritual line that separates those who have compared to those who won't. Those who will transcend and those who will accept. You see it all the time. You see it all the time where a person has all the tools. They can literally reach for the stars, but because a setback, a distraction, instead of going within themselves, they just go to the side, only to allow that to play out and play out and play out and play out until they're willing to acknowledge not only their role in it, because guess what? Nothing can happen to you unless you're present. Nothing can happen to you unless you decide to own it. Acknowledge what's going on. The moment that you decide to acknowledge what is in your environment, you can dictate its presence. Sure, there are going to be things that we have no control of, but we have control of how we respond to it. And I had to let my hair dry because I washed my hair. Um, uh, I'm just saying this. You don't have the right to complain how your life is if you don't choose to be present in your life. If you want your dreams to be a reality, you have to be the reality. You have to stand on it. Because once again, everything that you've gone through, every suffering you experience, every ill will that has been projected onto you, that is nothing but preparation to get you to that blessing that's on the other side waiting. Sure, there are going to be countless people that are going to count you out. They're going to speak ill will towards you. Why? Because they want to convince you to be just like them. They want you to do nothing. Because the moment you decide to do something, the probability of you being there will be gone. They can't afford that. Can't. And they know that. They probably had this conversation in their mind many times. If the one moment they figure that one thing out, that one thing they tend to overlook over the time, they're going to be gone. They can't afford that because they may be benefiting from you. Maybe your time, unfortunately, maybe your resources or lack thereof. They can't afford that. They can't afford you discovering you. Because the moment you discover you, you'll tap into your greatness. You'll also embrace your truth. You will also see the power of your inner voice. And lastly, you'll see how beautiful your energy is and how a blessing is to see you smile. Smile. Nobody's got your smile but you. Just like your fingerprints. Nobody got those. Doesn't matter if you're a twin. You got your own set and you got your own life. But it's work required. It's work required, baby. Stop worrying and waiting on them to change. If they wanted to change, you would have seen it. You don't set your watch to mankind. You don't. You want to be able to grab and control your dreams. Go within yourself. Go within. And I don't know why I feel obligated to say this, but I'm going to put it out there. Stop saying that you're religious. Stop. You're spiritual. Root word, spirit. This means nothing without the spirit within it. And I'll say it differently. It's no different than you being inside your vehicle. Your vehicle gets you where you need to be, but you control the steering wheel of the direction it goes. We only use 6% of this beautiful mind, but it matters not unless you decide to discern. Now, I know somebody's probably feeling perplexed right now because you're saying, why are you saying, Gerald, I'm to not acknowledge religion, religious? I'm religious. What I'm trying to get you to understand is a misrepresentation of words. You know what religious means, right? Religious means pattern. I can religiously speak to you, but without my spirit, I can't connect to you. You see it? You understand what I'm saying? You do yourself a disservice, but a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people, we don't know. I was the same way. That's why the cliche of knowledge is power. It is. It is. You got to love yourself, family. Love yourself. Don't be afraid to love you. Don't you realize those are the bricks that make your foundation of what your life is built on? You can't even have affirmations, let alone manifest them, until you love yourself. There's only one you. You will only get one human experience. One. So why are you crying over somebody that don't value it? Don't be sad for yourself. Don't. Go within yourself. Ask yourself the questions of what do I need? Because the more questions you ask of what you need, the more you'll get affirmations of what it will take to make it your reality. No man knoweth the time or moment that you will have your last breath. I'm gonna bring this home, and I'm gonna throw this out here too. See, that's something we as mortals take for granted. We take for granted our mortality until it gets called into question. I can say that because I know where I was New Year's Eve. I know where I was. I was laid up on a gurney in an ER with wires running on both my arms with a pulse over 205. I was supposed to die that day. But you know what? As the tears was rolling down my face, one of them did. It was just rolling down, and I was staying calm as best I could. I wasn't afraid. If anything, it motivated me to pray. And that's what I did. And I prayed and given thanks for my life to have the ability to make it to this point. For everything that I had seen in my travels, I've been all over the world, family. But my greatest reward was the bonds, the ability to see the smiles, to share a laugh, or just to offer a shoulder, a hug. And I was grateful for being able to earn the right to be called a father. Even though 2020, I don't have the relationship of my dreams with my children. I don't. Didn't set out that way. But you know what didn't? The one thing I won't be moved on is my optimism because I know that I'm not in control. God is. And He will do of my life as He sees fit. And on the intended moment, intended day, He will afford me the opportunity to sit before my table, even for one moment, and I will see my extensions there. I've dreamed about it. In fact, this dream almost shoot 10 years now. I had a dream 10 years ago where I saw myself sitting at a long table. I'm assuming it was a holiday because there were two turkeys on there. And on the side, I saw a young woman, I saw a young man, and it was like two boys, and they all looked alike because they looked like me. Now, legitimately, I have one child. That's my beloved Brianna. But these last 2 weeks, 2.5, almost three, God was like, you got other, and I'm going to show you. And that's the one thing I want to caveat with that. Please do not fool yourself. God will use whatever He needs to talk to you. He will use the things that you are most passionate about to get your attention. You're going to be scratching your head saying, am I crazy? Am I losing my mind? No. He's trying to convey something to protect you or to give you validation that either A, you're on the right path, or B, you need to make correction. That's one thing I've learned. Before any disappointment occurs, there are always precursors or signs before they happen. I'll break it down to a literal sense. Hope you never go through this. Think about a bill. Well, before you lose your service, because no company is in the business to lose money, but you go into this agreement to provide a service. And they're going to send you a notice saying, hey, look here, you're not holding your end of the bargain. We're letting you know you might have forgot. Can you make the corrective steps? That's your first acknowledgement of you got a commitment, as well as, hey, look here, you need to step up, handle that. They're going to give you ample time. If you choose to do nothing, then the narrative of the message gets a little more abrasive. Say, hey, look here, you haven't held up your end of the bargain. And because you haven't, we're going to put you on the clock. And if you don't fulfill that because of legal reasons, we have the we have the authority to sever ties. And depending on what it is, may be future legal actions that will come from it. We don't want to do that. Please attend to that. And then the third is usually that is most impactful. You wake up and it don't work or it's not there and you're feeling shook. Wait a minute. Then the victimization because you're feeling violated wants to kick in. That's that emotional trigger. But guess what? You got to look at the timeline from when they reached out because your first message was they reached out. They didn't have to. They didn't have to. So the narrative was already set. And even in that position, you still have the option to change it. Imagine what the world would look like if it was everything was one and done. Imagine how drastic things would be. Oh, I'm not going to let you know. You should have known. Snip. I mean, it's kind of like that proverbial uh, response when it comes to the law. You hear the legal system say, failure to not know the law is no excuse. And they stand on that. Because if it has an impact in your day to day, it's your responsibility to know it. Otherwise, who's in control of your life? You or them? You. So when it comes to your dreams, who's in control? Your environment or what's inside? So it doesn't surprise me why our communities are the way they are because people won't do the work. And on one half, they feel they're obligated. And on the other, they feel they're entitled. We all have to do our work, family. And that's the proverbial line that divides us all because there are always going to be people that have compared to those who do not. And the difference between those who have and those who don't, they see the investment of the commitment, not the social validation or the accolade. So at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. What's important? What's important to you? How you socially accepted or what you standing on? It's your life. It's on you. God's praying for you. You know how I am. I see your worth. And for that, it helps me discern mine. If you don't see the value in you, how can you expect someone else to? It's not their story. It belongs to you. Be blessed.